Hello guys, how are you? My name is Saheeb. Let's not prolong the introduction. I hope you subscribe to the channel and activate the bell button. Let's move on. Sunset Drive. Picture a tree-lined street, houses bathed in the warm glow of the setting sun. The Rose family, with their beautiful Victorian home at the end of the street, were the embodiment of this idyllic life. John, the successful businessman, and Mary, the radiant artist, were the envy of all. But all that changed on a cold November night. A frantic 911 call shattered the silence, the caller's voice thick with panic and terror. When the sirens finally faded, the Rose's perfect life lay in ruins, their home a crime scene. John Rose was dead, a single gunshot wound to the head. Mary, in a state of shock, claimed an intruder had taken her husband. The question on everyone's lips: who killed John Rose? The answer, it seemed, lay buried beneath layers of deceit, hidden truths, and a family secret that would tear them apart. John and Mary Rose. They were the couple everyone admired, their life together seemingly plucked from the pages of a magazine. John, a self-made millionaire, had a charm that could disarm the toughest critic. Mary, his muse and the anchor of the family, possessed a quiet strength that balanced John's boisterous personality. They had met at a local art fair, a chance meeting that blossomed into a whirlwind romance. John was instantly smitten by Mary's quiet beauty and her artistic talent. She, in turn, was drawn to his ambition and his unwavering belief in her. They had 2 children, Emily and David, who were the apple of their parents' eyes. The Roses were the epitome of success, their life a tapestry woven with love, laughter, and the promise of a bright future. But beneath the surface of their picture-perfect life lurked a current of discontent, a subtle unease that hinted at the storm to come. November 12th started like any other day in the Rose household. The smell of freshly brewed coffee wafted through the air as John Rose, already dressed in his power suit, skimmed the morning paper. Mary was in her studio preparing for an upcoming exhibition. The children were upstairs getting ready for school. It was a scene of domestic tranquility, the calm before the storm. Emily came down first, her backpack slung over her shoulder, a book clutched in her hand. She shared a quick breakfast with her father, her eyes downcast as she lost herself in the pages of her book. David, full of energy as usual, bounded down the stairs, his laughter echoing through the house. John ruffled his son's hair, a smile softening his features. Mary joined them briefly, a mug of tea warming her hands. It was a scene they had replayed countless times, a familiar rhythm to their days. News of John Rose's death spread through Sunset Drive like wildfire. The community, still reeling from the shock, grappled with the news. John Rose, the man who had it all, was gone. His life cut short by a senseless act of violence. The whispers started subtly, hushed conversations exchanged over backyard fences, neighbors peering out from behind drawn curtains. The police, tight-lipped as ever, went about their investigation, their presence a constant reminder of the tragedy that had befallen the Rose family. They interviewed neighbors, scoured the crime scene for clues, and pieced together the events leading up to John's death. Every detail, no matter how insignificant, was scrutinized, analyzed, and added to the growing mountain of evidence. Mary Rose, shrouded in grief, became an enigma. Her claims of an intruder, while consistent, lacked concrete evidence. The idyllic facade of the Rose family began to crumble, revealing the cracks beneath the surface. Section 5. The Investigation, a Tangled Web. The investigation into John Rose's death was like navigating a labyrinth with no way out. Each twist and turn led the police down a rabbit hole of dead ends, red herrings, and more questions than answers. The lack of forced entry suggested someone with a key had access, narrowing down the suspect pool to those closest to John. Forensic evidence painted a grim picture. The murder weapon, a .38 caliber revolver, was missing from the scene. Fingerprints found at the scene belonged to both Mary and John, further complicating the investigation. The gunshot residue on John's hand suggested a struggle, contradicting Mary's initial statement. As the police delved deeper, they uncovered a web of secrets that threatened to unravel the Rose family's carefully constructed facade. John, it turned out, was not the upstanding businessman he projected to be. Section 6. The Accusation, a Family Divided. The arrest sent shockwaves through Sunset Drive. Mary Rose, the grieving widow, was now the prime suspect in her husband's murder. The prosecution, armed with circumstantial evidence and motivated by the pressure to solve a high-profile case, painted Mary as a scorned wife, driven to murder by her husband's infidelity and deceit. The news of Mary's arrest divided the community, pitting neighbor against neighbor. Some believed in Mary's innocence, clinging to the image of the loving wife and mother they thought they knew. Others, swayed by the prosecution's narrative and the mounting evidence, saw her as a cold, calculating killer who had gotten away with murder. Emily and David, caught in the crossfire, found themselves grappling with the unthinkable, the possibility that their mother could be responsible for their father's death. Section 7. A Trial of Uncertainties. The trial of Mary Rose was a media circus, the courtroom packed with reporters, curious onlookers, and those seeking a glimpse into the lives of the once-envied Rose family. The prosecution, led by the ambitious district attorney, presented a compelling case, weaving a narrative of a loveless marriage, financial troubles, and a wife pushed to the edge. They presented evidence of John's infidelity, his mounting debts, and Mary's knowledge of his double life. The neighbor's testimony placing Mary outside the house close to the time of death was a crucial blow to the defense. The prosecution argued that Mary, consumed by jealousy and resentment, had finally snapped, killing her husband in cold blood. The defense, however, presented Mary as a loving wife and devoted mother, a victim of circumstance and a rush to judgment. They argued that the prosecution's case was built on speculation and circumstantial evidence lacking any concrete proof of Mary's guilt. The trial became a battle of narratives, each side presenting their version of the truth, leaving the jury to decipher fact from fiction. After weeks of intense testimony, dramatic cross-examinations, and a media frenzy that threatened to engulf the courthouse, the jury reached a verdict. The tension in the courtroom was palpable, a heavy silence descending as the foreman read the verdict, guilty of murder in the second degree. A collective gasp filled the room. Mary Rose, her face pale and stoic, showed no emotion as the verdict was read. Her children, Emily and David, their faces etched with disbelief and anguish, clung to each other for support. The prosecution had won, their narrative of a scorned wife turned killer, resonating with the jury. The defense, however, maintained Mary's innocence, vowing to appeal the verdict. The verdict divided the community, some expressing relief that justice had been served, while others grappled with the possibility that an innocent woman had been wrongly convicted. The verdict did little to quell the uneasiness that had settled over Sunset Drive. John Rose was gone, and Mary, now a convicted murderer, was behind bars. Their children, Emily and David, were left to pick up the pieces of their shattered lives, forever marked by the tragedy that had befallen their family. The case, despite its legal closure, left behind a trail of unanswered questions and lingering doubts. The lack of a murder weapon, the inconsistencies in witness testimonies, and the possibility of an unknown intruder continued to haunt the investigation. Was Mary Rose truly a cold-blooded killer, or was she an innocent woman caught in a web of circumstantial evidence? The prosecution's case, while compelling, relied heavily on conjecture and the portrayal of Mary as a scorned wife driven to murder. The truth, it seemed, lay buried somewhere beneath layers of speculation, hidden agendas, and the fallibility of human memory. Years later, the Rose family tragedy remains a haunting reminder of the elusive nature of truth and the enduring power of doubt. The questions that plague the investigation continue to linger, unanswered and perhaps unanswerable. What truly transpired on that fateful November night? Was Mary Rose a victim of circumstance, falsely accused and unjustly convicted, or was she a master manipulator who had fooled everyone around her? The whispers persist, fueled by the lack of a definitive answer, turning the tragedy into a morbid local legend. The pursuit of justice, it seemed, had only led to more questions, leaving a void filled with speculation and uncertainty. The Rose family tragedy left an indelible mark on all those touched by its shadow. John Rose was gone, his life cut short, his story ending in a tragedy that left a void in the lives of those who knew him. Mary Rose, whether innocent or guilty, remained imprisoned, her life forever defined by the events of that fateful night. Emily and David, the collateral damage in this tragic saga, were left to grapple with the loss of their father and the shattered image of their family. The weight of the tragedy, the unanswered questions, and the public scrutiny followed them, casting a long shadow over their lives. The Rose family tragedy, a story of love, loss and the search for justice, continues to resonate, a somber reminder that sometimes the greatest mystery is not who committed the crime, but the truth that lies hidden beneath the surface, forever out of reach.